Hey everyone! Today I'm going to be reacting to my subscribers' fish tanks. I asked my followers on Twitter and Instagram to send me pictures of their fish tanks to react to, and this is those pictures, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. Go ahead and open up Twitter here. So unfortunately nobody replied to me on Instagram. I'm not really on Instagram all that much, so that doesn't surprise me. But I got quite a few responses on Twitter. So let's go ahead and take a look at what you guys sent me on Twitter. The very first person to send me a picture was Ethan Kokak? I don't know, I'm sure I screwed up your last name. Sorry, how do you pronounce that? Kokak. Ethan Kokak. The very first picture you sent me here was your fish room. Well, looks actually, I know that you breed newts and salamanders, and so I would actually say this is your amphibian room. Let's see here. Oh my god. There's a lot of tanks. So you've got wire racks like I do in my fish and reptile room. That's cool. Tanks look clean, but they look dark. Maybe it's just because of the way the lighting is. You sent me a couple of close-up pictures of some of the tanks, so let's see what you got going on here. So this very first picture here, you say it's crested newts, and I like this. The glass is a little bit foggy looking at it, the water's a little dark, but I think that's fine. I think that the dark water is actually tannins from the driftwood that you're using, so that's normal, that's fine. There's a ton of duckweed on top of it too, so that's probably got a lot to do with why the water looks dark. I really like what you did with this driftwood though. At the bottom it looks like a root system, and at the top it looks like an island. I really like that, and I'm sure that your newts do too. Sponge filter, some deep gravel on one side, thin gravel on the other side. Lots of live plants. It looks like a newt paradise to me, honestly. I'm sure your newts love it. And then you've got this workspace right in front of it that you were clearly just using because it's wet. But no judgment there, it's an aquarium room, so it's gonna get wet, right? I like this one. I give this a newt paradise out of 10. And then you also sent me a picture of your axolotl tank. Now I have one axolotl in a 20-gallon long tank, but you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 axolotls just in this photo. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more axolotls in the tank, but this is a huge tank by the looks of it. There's a lot of vegetation in here. That looks like sand that you're using for the substrate. That's really good. That's excellent. I love that. And yeah, it looks like there's a lot of algae growing on the driftwood or rock or whatever that is in the background. That's fine. I'm not here to algae shame anyone. I've got plenty of algae of my own growing right here. Algae is a sign of a healthy ecosystem, so I'm not one to algae shame at all. And it looks like because of all this plant coverage, the tank isn't too brightly lit for your axolotls, and that's really cool because I know axolotls, they can't blink, they don't have eyelids, so they can't really like escape from the light unless you provide them with ways to escape from it. And it looks like you've done a really good job of doing that here just with plant coverage. It looks like a lake in Mexico. Good job. The next person I want to react to is Destiny Boy. You have what looks like a betta tank here. I don't know if this is a 10-gallon or a 5-gallon. Either way, it's a good size for a betta. But judging by the size of the betta fish in this tank, it looks to me like it's a 10-gallon. I like that you've got a lot of live plants in here. I don't know about this little fake tree here that has what looks like these really needly plastic fake plants on it. Those like needle-like fake plants, those can be really bad for longfin bettas. They can rip their fins on those. Just judging from my own experience here, I would not use that in a betta tank. I would take that out and maybe just replace it with some natural driftwood or some more plants. I really love the gravel that you've used in here though. That's really cool. And you mentioned the bubbler here, and you've got it turned on in the second pic. You say the bubbles are usually off because it makes the betta tired quicker. Honestly, I would just remove the bubbler. Your betta does not need a bubbler by any means. You've got a filter in here. I would just do without the bubbler. You don't need it. You don't need all that extra oxygenation in the water. Bettas are not like other fish. They go up to the surface to breathe air, so they don't really need highly oxygenated water. And also, they're not the best swimmers. And so the less water movement that you can give them, the better. Next, tank. This one comes from Kelsey. You say, this is Pug's tank. Note, with all my animals in my room, the heaters keep my room toasty, and my bedroom tanks stay around 77 degrees. And yes, there's a sponge filter in this tank. Okay, and that's cool. You don't have to heat the individual aquariums if the room is heated enough. 77 degrees, that's pretty good. I wouldn't put a heater in that tank. Sponge filter, that's perfect for a betta. It's minimal water movement, but it's still sufficient filtration, so that's really good. It looks like it's a hexagon tank, and it looks like it's taller than it is wider, though. So that I'm not so sure about. Just the shape of the tank. I would usually go with something that has more footprint than more height. But this looks like it's a small tank, probably somewhere in the 3 to 5 gallon range. You did a good job with putting in a hide. I really love that hide. And the fake plant looks really good. It's a silk plant. So that's really good for the betta's fins. It's a lot better than plastic plants. Plastic plants, I don't know if you guys are aware, are of higher risk of ripping up or cutting betta's fins. Just the sharp edges on them. Sometimes they're really needle-like. And sometimes even if they're not needle-like, just the edges themselves can be kind of sharp. So if you're gonna go with fake plants, it's better to get something that's silk or cloth like what Kelsey has here. I like the way that the gravel accents the plant really well by repeating that purple color. I give this a good solid 7. Next tank, Ashley Weatherly. That's a cool looking tank. I like the way that the light is. I like the way that you used sand and the pebbles. I like that you used cloth plants. I like that you used a sponge filter. I don't see a fish. Is there a fish in this tank? I'm sure there is. I'm sure it's just hiding. Judging by the way you have it all set up, it looks like it's a betta tank. Hang on. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's see what we got. I definitely don't see a fish in here. But considering the silk plants, the sponge filter, the heater, moss ball, I'm going to assume that this is a betta tank. The betta is just somewhere in those plants. And for a betta tank, it's pretty good. I like it. I can't tell what size it is. I'm going to assume it's somewhere around 5 gallons. I'm going to give this a where's your betta hiding out of 10. Bridget submitted this tank here. It is a 5-gallon Fluval Spec, and it's a little minimalistic, but I still like it. It's just got a single betta in it. The filtration is built into the tank. I don't see a heater in this tank, but I know with these Fluval Spec tanks, you can actually hide the heater inside the filtration compartment, so I'm not going to knock you for that. I believe this is one of those like touch activated lights where you just kind of tap it. I do like the minimalistic aquascape with just the one solid piece of driftwood and the 3 live plants. That looks really cool, but it doesn't really provide a lot of coverage for the betta fish. I like to provide a lot more coverage than that for my betta fish, a lot of places for them to hide and explore. I do see you got the betta log up top, so that's good, that's helpful. But for me, I like to put a lot more coverage for my bettas than that, especially with the long fin bettas like this one. I'll give this one a solid 7. Next tank, we're gonna go with Julia. She sent me 2 pictures of this tank, so let's look at the first picture. This is definitely a betta tank. I see the betta right there. You've got a couple of hides. You've got some silk plants. You've got, it looks like, 1 live plant in there, as well as a few moss balls. So that's all really good. Those moss balls are going to help with your water quality. That live plant is going to help with your water quality. And then you've got all these silk plants and a couple of caves for your betta to swim around in and explore and hide in. That's really good. That's really cool. I like that a lot. I like that white gravel. Let's see the second picture. When you captioned this, you said the heater is behind the moss balls. You just can't see it, and you can't see the filter, but I swear it's there. I believe you. But why is your water level so low? I can tell this is a 10-gallon tank because I have some of the items that you've used in this tank. I don't understand why you're only using about 5 gallons worth of water in it. My only suggestion would be to fill the tank up some more. Julia, I'm only docking points because the tank is only half full, so I'm going to give you a 7 out of 10. If you fill that tank up all the way, it could easily be a 9. Next tank. Anna Louise sent me a picture of eggs and pancakes. It looks delicious, but I'm going to give this this is not a fish tank out of 10. She also sent me a picture of her 5-gallon fluval chi. You got a lot of tall, viney, live plants in here. Marimo moss ball. Got a gorgeous fish in here. It looks like on the fluval chi, the filtration unit is on top of the water, but like right in the middle of the tank, rather than hanging off the back or the side. And I think that's a really interesting design. I think that's a really cool looking tank. And I really like that skull cave that you have down on the bottom. I'm gonna go ahead and give you an 8 out of 10. Next tank. Nat at Barrel Racer 4738 asks, am I too late? No, you're not too late. What do you have here? You have a planted aquarium. Looks like it might actually be a 20-gallon tall. There's a lot of plants. I see your Amazon sword has shot off a few runners. You've got some small ones down on the bottom. You've got, looks like a Marimo moss ball, a betta. I think I see an albino cory cat. I think I see a few albino cory cats, so that's good. I know that the cory cats like to be in groups, so it's good that you have more than one of them. Looks really good. You have it right by a window, so I imagine that you might end up fighting against algae sometimes, but that Amazon sword looks really full. That is so cool. I can't get over that Amazon sword. With it being right by the window, I would be concerned about getting algae, but if it's working for you, then I'm not going to question you. I don't know how new or established this tank might be. This might be working for you. A lot of people knock the window tank because of algae, but if it's done right, algae isn't a problem, and it doesn't look like it's a problem in here. Like I said, I don't know how new or established this tank is, so it might get algae later. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 9. Next tank. A gamer's wife says, I'm attempting to make a heavily planted future axolotl tank. The heater is in there because I'm first going to keep fish in there until the plants have a chance to grow out more. Hopefully won't be uprooted as easily by the axolotl. Now that's a good idea, is to make it a fish tank for a while and then take the fish out and put the axolotl in once the plants are rooted. That's a really good idea. I love that black sand. I love all of these plants. I love that little cave that you made out of rock, or is that driftwood? I don't know, but I love it. I like the background, I like the sponge filter, the floating plants that you have. It's all very, very good. I wonder what size tank this is. It looks like, by the shape of it, it looks like it might possibly be a 29-gallon. Let me know what size tank this is and how many axolotls you're planning on putting in it. Judging by looking at it, it looks like it would be good for 1 or 2 axolotls, depending on if it is the size that I think it is. I really love the way that the grass in the foreground looks coming out of the sand. I love the way you've attached the plants to the cave. I'm not sure what's going on with this clump of plants on the left, but I'm not judging. I am judging. What am I saying? This video is me judging. But it looks like you certainly know what you're doing with plants. I'm gonna go ahead and give you a you're better with plants than I am out of 10. Who else we got here? Dusty Hartle asks, am I doing fish keeping right? No. Next tank. We got a new follower here named Denon. Sent me this picture of their tank. It says 40 neon tetras, 10 albino corridoras, 4 orange bristlenose plecos, 1 zebra loach, 1 coolie loach, had 3, other 2 disappeared. Planning on adding more fluval substrate and more plants. I don't think you told me about all the fish that you have. Looks like you have more fish swimming around right here that you didn't tell me about. What are those gourabi? I don't know. The tank looks like it's a pretty big size. I like the driftwood. I like this kind of island that you've done in the middle. I like the plants. And I want to talk to you about your coolie loaches. It says you only have 1, so you definitely need to get more of those. They need to be in groups, and not just a group of 3 either. They need to be in a large group. In my 29-gallon tank, I have coolie loaches, and I have a dozen of them. And that substrate, that fluval stratum substrate, is really good for plants, but it's not so good for coolie loaches or really for corridoras. For your bottom feeders that have the bristles on their mouth and literally rub their bellies against the substrate, you want to have a really fine and smooth substrate for them. They actually sift the sand through their gills. So I would actually recommend that you swap out your substrate for sand. And the water's a little bit cloudy too. I'm gonna give you a 5 out of 10. Next tank. Freddie Turner at Smiles Awkwardly sent me this picture of his fish tank and says, already turned my lights off for the night, but here's a pic of my 20-gallon tall from a week or two ago. I like that a lot. I like the plants that you have floating up top that have these long roots that are going to just grow down into the water column. That's really cool. I love the way that you have arranged the driftwood around and on top of this terracotta pot. I love the fact that you're using a sponge filter. You've got your heater visible. You've got all of these live plants that look to be doing really well. That looks like it's a really good light for the tank. And you've got Rasbora heads in there. I love me some Rasbora heads. They're one of my favorite schooling fish of all time, and I actually want to get more of them for my 20-gallon tall tank right here. I do see some what looks like blackbeard algae growing on your heater. Again, I'm not here to algae shame. Algae is actually a sign of a healthy ecosystem, and I see you've got a snail sitting there on the heater eating that algae. I'm going to give you a 9 out of 10. Fee at IDKWTDWMH sent me this picture of your retired saltwater tank. That is a lot of anemones and corals. Wow. Oh wow, this tank is deceivingly big because look at the size of these clownfish in there. They look so small, so tiny in that tank. So this tank is much bigger than I thought at first. I like that. I'm not familiar with saltwater. Like I said, that the shrimp has some really long whiskers. I've seen those kinds of shrimp before. I think those are really cool. And I see you've got just a couple of clownfish in here. It looks like you've got another fish kind of blurred out in the background, but not a lot of fish going on, mostly corals and anemones, which I can respect that. This looks really nice. I like the arrangement, how everything's just kind of one big island in the middle of this tall tank. I'm gonna give this a I don't know enough about saltwater out of 10. Well, there you go, guys. I hope I didn't roast you too hard. I hope I offered you guys some helpful advice. Some of you guys really blew me away with the quality of your tanks and your skill level with fish keeping, so I appreciate that. I like that everyone has their own unique style and everybody was so willing to show their tanks off. Thank you to everyone who submitted aquarium photos to me. I really do appreciate it. For those of you watching, I hope that you learned something. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.